I woke up to the sound of Lake Michigan waves crashing against the shore and the worst headache of my life in a bed that wasn't mine. Wearing a burgundy silk nightgown I'd never seen before, with a massive diamond ring on my left hand. Panic hit. Immediately, I sat up too fast, making the room spin, and tried to piece together. Last night, my sister's engagement party in Chicago, drinks lots of drinks, a rooftop bar with a name I couldn't remember, dancing champagne toasts, and then nothing, complete blackout. The ring caught the morning sunlight. Princess cut diamond, at least 5 carats, set in platinum with a matching wedding band. This wasn't costume jewelry. This was the kind of ring that could pay off my nursing school debt twice over. The bedroom was equally intimidating. Massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking what appeared to be Chicago's Gold Coast furniture that screamed serious money art on the walls that looked like it belonged in a museum. This wasn't a hotel room. This was someone's home, someone extremely wealthy. I stumbled out of bed still wearing the nightgown. Where were my scrubs from last night? Where was my phone? And tried the door. Unlocked the hallway beyond was even more impressive. Marble floors, contemporary chandelier. The kind of luxury that made me feel like I'd accidentally wandered onto a movie set. Or into someone's penthouse magazine spread. Everything was pristine, modern, expensive, in a way that made my South Side apartment look like a college dorm room. Hello? My voice came out scratchy, throat dry from too much alcohol. Is anyone here? Good morning, Mrs. Samuel. A woman appeared, older, professionally dressed, with the severe expression of someone who'd seen everything. Mr. Samuel asked me to ensure you had everything you needed when you woke up. How are you feeling, Mrs. Samuel? No, there's been some kind of mistake. I'm Elena Reed. I don't know who Mrs. Samuel is, but it's definitely not me. I'm a nurse. I work at Chicago. Med. I was at my sister's party last night, and I can't remember anything after midnight. The housekeeper's expression didn't change. Perhaps you should speak with Mr. Samuel. He's been waiting for you to wake up. I'll let him know. You're ready. Ready for what? I don't know any. Mr. Samuel, I need to find my phone, find my clothes, figure out what the hell happened last night. How did I even get here? Your phone is charging in the sitting room? She said calmly, like women woke up confused in this penthouse every day. Your friends have been notified that you're safe. Mr. Samuel will explain everything. She gestured down the pristine hallway. Please follow me. I followed because I didn't know what else to do. My head was pounding, my memory had more holes than Swiss cheese, and I was apparently in a stranger's multi-million-dollar penthouse, being called Mrs. Samuel, wearing a ring that cost more than I made in a year. This had to be some kind of elaborate mistake, or maybe I was still drunk. Maybe this was a nightmare, and I'd wake up in my own bed, with my alarm blaring, for my shift at the hospital. The sitting room was as luxurious as everything else, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of Lake Michigan that probably cost more per month than my annual salary. And sitting by those windows reading a newspaper with morning coffee was a man who looked like he'd walked straight out of a dangerous fantasy. Dark hair, perfectly styled sharp jawline, covered by a well-groomed beard, tattoos visible on his forearms where he'd rolled up the sleeves of his expensive shirt. Despite the early hour and an air of controlled danger that made me freeze in the doorway, he looked up, and his dark eyes assessed me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Not threatening exactly, but definitely not safe. Elena, he said my name, like he'd said it 1,000 times before, his voice deep and smooth. Good you're awake. How's your head? How do you know my name? I stayed near the door, ready to run if necessary. Who are you? Why am I here? And why is your housekeeper calling me Mrs. Samuel? Because that's your name now. He set down his newspaper and stood tall, powerfully built, moving with the kind of controlled grace that suggested he was very comfortable with violence. At least legally, I'm Ruiz Samuel, and according to the state of Illinois, he paused, watching my reaction. We got married last night. Before we continue, let's address the elephant in the room. Ruiz manipulated a drunk woman into marriage. That's not romantic, that's predatory. But here's where it gets complicated. Is accepting his money and staying for 6 months any better? Where do you draw the line? Is Elena a victim, a willing participant, or somewhere in between? Comment below with your take and where you're watching from. If you're invested in seeing whether Elena escapes this gilded cage or falls for her captor, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next 4 months will test everything she believes about love, morality, and survival. Like this video if you're team take the money and run, and share it with anyone who needs a story about the messy reality of choosing between financial freedom and moral compromise. Now back to Elena's deal with the devil. I didn't believe him until he pulled out his phone and showed me the video. There I was, definitely me, wearing a white cocktail dress I vaguely remembered borrowing from my sister, standing in what looked like a private room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I was laughing, stumbling slightly, clinging to Ruiz's arm while an officiant said something about marriage and commitment. Video me was kissing him enthusiastically, while someone cheered in the background. "No," I whispered. I wouldn't." "You were very enthusiastic about the whole thing," Ruiz said, his tone matter-of-fact. "You kept saying how romantic it was, how you'd always believed in fate." He swiped to another photo, me admiring the ring on my finger, beaming like I'd won the lottery. "You insisted on this specific ring. Said, if you were getting married, you wanted something that proved it was real." I sank onto the nearest chair, my legs suddenly unreliable. "This isn't legal. I was drunk, too drunk to consent. We can just get it annulled." "We could." He sat across from me, close enough that I caught his cologne. Expensive, subtle, dangerous. "But I'd like to discuss an alternative arrangement first." Something in his voice made me look up. His expression was unreadable, but those dark eyes were calculating. This was a business meeting, I realized. I was a business meeting. "I needed to get married," he said simply, quickly, quietly, to someone outside my world. "You were drunk, willing, and perfect for my purposes, so I took advantage of the opportunity." The casual admission made my blood run cold. "You deliberately married a drunk stranger? That's not opportunistic. That's predatory." "Call it what you want. The marriage is legal, and I need you to stay married to me for the next 6 months." He leaned forward. "In exchange, I'll compensate you generously. $300,000. Plus expenses, housing here in the penthouse, anything you need. And at the end of 6 months, we file for divorce. Clean, simple, mutually beneficial." Mutually beneficial? I nearly choked on the words. "You trapped me in a sham marriage." "I'm offering you financial security." His voice remained calm, infuriatingly reasonable. "Your mother's medical bills from her surgery last year still outstanding, your sister's college tuition for her senior year, your own student loans from nursing school. $300,000 solves all of that, Elena. 6 months of your time for your family's future." He knew about my mother, my sister, had researched me, assessed my weaknesses, identified exactly what would make me desperate enough to consider this insanity. I wanted to throw something at his perfect, calculating face. Why? I demanded. Why do you need a wife so badly you'd trap a random woman? My family has certain expectations about leadership and stability. A man my age, unmarried, is seen as unreliable. I need to appear settled, committed, legitimate. You provide that legitimacy. In return, you get enough money to change your life. And if I refuse? If I just walk out and file for annulment myself? Then you spend months fighting it in court with lawyers I can afford and you can't. Or, he pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. You read this contract, negotiate terms that work for you, and we both get what we need. I kept my apartment like I'd negotiated, but I was rarely there. My new life had a rhythm that felt surreal, even after 2 months. 12-hour shifts at Chicago Med, where I was just Elena Reed, trauma nurse, followed by charity galas and family dinners, where I was Mrs. Samuel, the mob boss's mysteriously acquired wife. The first time I came home at 2 in the morning after a brutal shift to find Ruiz still awake, reading in the living room with Thai food waiting, I didn't know what to say. You didn't have to wait up, I said, exhausted and confused by the gesture. You haven't eaten. He pushed the containers toward me. Diego mentioned you worked through your breaks again. It was such a small thing, but it cracked something in my careful defenses. He noticed. He cared enough to notice. The weekly family dinners were their own kind of warfare. Mateo barely acknowledged me. Vincent watched me like I was a threat he hadn't yet neutralized. But Sophia, Adrian's wife, pulled me aside after the second dinner. You're doing well, she said, squeezing my hand. Better than I did my first month. Mateo is warming to you, even if he won't show it. How can you tell? He stopped suggesting Ruiz made a mistake. That's as close to approval as he gets. She glanced at where the men stood talking business. Vincent hates that you make Ruiz softer, but soft isn't weak. Remember that. Diego, my constant shadow whenever I left the penthouse, became an unexpected friend. During long drives between the hospital and various social obligations, he'd share stories. Ruiz paying for a struggling employee's daughter's surgery. Ruiz ensuring a neighborhood playground got rebuilt after gang violence destroyed it. Small acts of decency hidden beneath the ruthless exterior. Why are you telling me this? I asked one evening. Because you look at him like you're waiting for the monster to appear. He's not just one thing, Mrs. Samuel. None of us are. The charity gala was my first real test. Designer gown, expensive jewelry. Ruiz's hand possessive on my lower back as Chicago's elite scrutinized the mysterious woman who'd captured one of the city's most dangerous men. I smiled, made conversation, played the part so well that even I almost believed it. You were remarkable tonight, Ruiz said later in the penthouse. We'd started having these conversations, late night, after events, when the masks came off slightly. I'm good actress. No, you were genuine. That's rarer. He poured 2 glasses of wine. Tell me about your shift yesterday. The teenager with the gunshot wound? Did he make it? The fact that he remembered, that he asked, that he actually listened when I talked about work. It shouldn't have mattered, but it did. Everything shifted the night he came home with blood soaking through his shirt. A business meeting gone wrong, he said dismissively, but the knife wound across his ribs needed stitches. Hospital's not an option, he said, gritting his teeth. Can you sit down before you pass out? My training kicked in, overriding everything else. I cleaned the wound with steady hands, my touch clinical and careful. His eyes never left my face. You're good at this, he murmured. It's my job. But my hands were shaking slightly now, hyper-aware of his skin beneath my fingers, the way he tensed when I sutured, the intimacy of caring for someone's pain. Elena, he said softly, and when I looked up, his face was inches from mine. The air between us felt charged, dangerous, in an entirely different way. I pulled back. All done. Try not to get stabbed again. But something had changed. The accidental touches lingered. Eye contact stretched too long. The space between us felt smaller every day. Then I found the man in Ruiz's office, beaten, bloodied, barely conscious. I treated him in secret, smuggled him out through the service entrance. Ruiz discovered it within hours. How can you hurt people like that? I demanded when he confronted me. It's the only language my world understands, he said, but his eyes held something like regret. And you just saved someone I needed to send a message to. I'm a nurse. I don't let people die. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. I know. It's one of the things He stopped, jaw tight. Just be more careful. Your compassion could get you killed in my world. But he didn't punish it. Didn't stop me. Another crack in that carefully controlled armor. It happened on a Tuesday night, 3 months into our arrangement. I found Ruiz on the penthouse balcony at 2 a.m, staring at the city like it held answers he couldn't find. Can't sleep? I asked, joining him despite knowing I should keep my distance. You make me want to be different, he said abruptly, not looking at me. Better. I find myself wondering what you'd think before I make decisions. That's never happened before. My heart stuttered. Ruiz. You can't change what you are, I said, forcing the words out. And I can't love what you do. Can't or won't? He turned to face me, and the vulnerability in his eyes was devastating. Does it matter? It matters to me. The argument escalated. Tension we'd been suppressing for weeks, finally exploding. I don't remember who moved first, but suddenly his mouth was on mine, desperate and fierce, and I was kissing him back with equal hunger. His hands in my hair, my fingers digging into his shoulders, 3 months of denial combusting into something that felt inevitable and terrifying. He pulled back first, breathing hard. This can't happen. I know. We're pretending. This isn't real. I know, I whispered, but we both knew it was a lie. The Morettis made their move 2 days later. The car bomb in the hospital parking garage was sophisticated. Meant to kill. Diego saw it first, the suspicious vehicle, the wire, and shoved me behind a concrete pillar a second before the explosion. I woke up on the ground, ears ringing, Diego bleeding beside me. Training overrode panic. I worked on him right there, pressure on the wounds, barking orders at arriving staff, refusing to leave his side even when they tried to pull me away. Ruiz appeared in the ER like an avenging angel, face white with terror that transformed to murderous rage when he saw me covered in Diego's blood. You're moving to the safe house, he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. Now. This is not negotiable. I can't lose you. The farmhouse in rural Illinois felt like another world, isolated, quiet, just us and 2 security guards outside. 3 days of forced proximity stripped away our remaining defenses. I was 12 when they killed my mother, Ruiz said one night by the fireplace. Moretti's father. A message to mine about territory disputes. She was innocent, completely uninvolved, but that didn't matter. My father used her death to forge me into a weapon. Taught me that love is weakness, that caring makes you vulnerable. And now? I asked softly. Now I'm terrified because I care about you, and I don't know how to protect what I care about without destroying it. I told him about growing up poor on the South Side, working through nursing school, my ex who'd stolen from me and left me believing I wasn't enough. I save people for a living, but I couldn't save myself from being used. You're not being used now, aren't I? This whole thing started as you using me. It started that way, he admitted. But Elena, somewhere along the way... I kissed him to stop the words. And this time when we fell into bed, it felt like falling off a cliff. Exhilarating and fatal. His hands were reverent, desperate, and I was matching him touch for touch until fear crashed over me. Stop, I gasped. We have to stop. Elena, if we do this, it becomes real, and real means it can destroy me. FBI agent Torres appeared the next morning like a ghost from a nightmare. We know you're not really his wife. Help us bring him down. She laid it all out, the drug distribution, protection rackets, suspected murders, the RICO case they were building. Testify, and we'll give you immunity, witness protection, a fresh start. No, you're protecting a monster. After she left, I couldn't stop wondering if she was right. Ruiz found me staring into the fireplace, doubt written all over my face. What did she tell you? He asked quietly. The truth, I think, about who you really are. And who am I, Elena? I don't know anymore. We returned to Chicago with an unspoken agreement to maintain distance for the remaining 3 months. But Vincent's betrayal was emerging, feeding information to the Morettis, plotting a coup, and Ruiz became colder, more ruthless without me to soften his edges. You're the only one who makes him human, Sophia told me desperately. Without you, he'll become our father. But I was drowning in doubt, watching the man I'd started to love transform into the monster I'd always feared, unable to stop either his descent or my own heartbreak. Vincent made his move in the 5th month, challenging Ruiz openly at a family meeting with Mateo, watching like a judge, presiding over a gladiator match. Your wife has made you soft, Mateo said, his voice cold with disappointment. Leadership cannot afford softness. I watched from the doorway as Ruiz proved his father wrong in the most brutal way possible. The suspected traitor, one of Vincent's men caught passing information, was dragged into the room, and what Ruiz did to him was methodical, savage, designed to send a message. I couldn't look away, couldn't unsee the monster emerging when his back was against the wall. Later, I found the man barely conscious in a storage room. My medical oath overrode everything else. I treated him, helped him escape Chicago, and knew exactly what I'd done. You helped my enemy, Ruiz said when he discovered it, his voice dangerously quiet. You could have been killed. I'm a nurse. I save lives. I don't decide who deserves to die. In my world, mercy equals death. You want to save people? Start by not getting yourself murdered for being naive. We lived in brutal silence for a week, occupying the same space, but existing in separate hells. Then Mateo summoned us both, demanding to know why there was no pregnancy yet, why I hadn't secured the succession with an heir. It's in the contract, Vincent said smoothly, producing the document. Page 17, Clause 9, the expectation of producing a child to solidify the arrangement. I turned to Ruiz, feeling betrayed down to my bones. You wanted to trap me forever? That was the plan, he admitted, and the raw honesty hurt worse than a lie would have. But I can't do that to you now. I won't. The Morettis answered with a drive-by shooting at Adrian's home. Sophia took a bullet meant for him, survived by inches, and the family's rage became a living thing demanding blood. More violence just creates more violence, I pleaded with Ruiz. When does it end? It ends when every threat is eliminated, he said, already planning war. There's no other way to protect what's mine. And I realized with devastating clarity that he couldn't escape the cycle, and neither could I if I stayed. Agent Torres cornered me at the hospital, threatening to expose me as complicit unless I wore a wire. You're running out of time to make the right choice. Then Adrian discovered Vincent's full betrayal, feeding tactical information to the Morettis, planning both a coup and Ruiz's assassination. They set a trap using false information, and Vincent walked right into it. Our final week arrived like an execution date. Divorce papers were drawn up, the final payment sitting in my account, both of us knowing it was ending, but unable to say the words that might stop it. The charity gala at the Chicago Art Institute was supposed to be our last public appearance. We stood on a balcony overlooking the city, and for one moment, I thought he might say something that would change everything. Elena, Gunfire shattered the moment. Moretti hitmen flooded the gallery, Vincent opening security doors for reinforcements. Chaos erupted, screaming, blood spreading across marble floors, Ruiz's body covering mine as bullets flew. Diego went down hard, taking a bullet meant for me. I worked on him with tablecloths and champagne bottles, my training overriding terror, while Ruiz transformed into something cold and efficient and deadly. He eliminated Moretti's soldiers with brutal precision, then put 2 bullets in Vincent's chest without hesitation. Go, he told me, getting me to the exit as sirens wailed. Then, he vanished into the night. The FBI arrested me at the penthouse. 6 hours of interrogation, Torres pushing for testimony, threatening accessory to murder charges, before Maria got me released on a technicality. I returned to a bloodstained penthouse and 6 hours of not knowing if Ruiz was dead or alive. He appeared at dawn, covered in blood, eyes hollow with what he'd done. It's over, he said. I eliminated their entire leadership structure. You're safe now. Look at yourself, I whispered, horror overwhelming everything else. Look at what you became. I'd become anything to keep you alive. I can't love what you are, no matter how much I love who you could be. We signed the divorce papers in devastating silence, the money transferred. I packed my bags while he watched, like I was killing him slowly. I can't save you from yourself, Ruiz, I said at the door, and I can't drown trying. Then go, he said, his voice breaking, but know that every monster I become now is because you left. I left anyway, choosing survival over love, and hated myself for it with every step. 4 months after I left, my mother called from the hospital. Emergency surgery, complications, bills I couldn't cover even after depleting what remained of the money. I sat in the ICU waiting room, financially and emotionally bankrupt, when she woke up asking about that nice young man who paid the rest of my bills. What? Ruiz. He came by yesterday, took care of everything. Such a gentleman. When are you bringing him around again? I called his private number with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring. Why? I demanded. Why are you still protecting my family? Because you would have, if you'd had money left. His voice was rough, exhausted. It's not guilt, Elena, I still care. I care too, I whispered. That's the problem. We met at a coffee shop in neutral territory. Both of us changed. Him thinner, shadows under his eyes, me looking as hollowed out as I felt. I've been transitioning operations, he said carefully. 60% legitimate now. Trying to be someone you could... He stopped. It doesn't matter now. It matters you're trying. That's what I needed to see. Diego's urgent call shattered the moment. Moretti Cousins had hired professional assassins. Ambush set for that evening. Ruiz stood to leave to face it alone. I'm not leaving you to die, I said, standing with him. Not again. This isn't your fight. Maybe not. But you're mine to fight for. The restaurant ambush went wrong despite our warning. A civilian caught in crossfire, the owner dying in my arms, despite everything I tried. I knelt in his blood, my hands uselessly trying to save what was already lost, and something broke in me. "This is your world," I said to Ruiz. "Good people die because of your business. Then I'm changing my world." He turned to his men, to the captured assassins. "No retaliation. We're turning them over to the FBI with full evidence. It ends here." The decision made him a traitor in the criminal world. A $2 million bounty, death threats, forced cooperation with law enforcement. We moved into FBI protection while he prepared testimony, and I refused to leave. If you're changing your life, I'm part of it. 2 weeks of tentative rebuilding, planning my clinic for the South Side, using his legitimate resources to fund real change, building something genuine instead of fantasy. Then, the final assassination attempt came the night before his deposition. The cartel hit was sophisticated, brutal. Ruiz took 3 bullets protecting me, and I worked on him in the back of the car with shaking hands, my trauma training the only thing between him and death. "Stay with me, damn you," I gasped, pressure on the chest wounds, his blood warm on my hands. "You don't get to die before we get our chance." 6 hours of surgery. When he woke in ICU, tears streaming down his face, he whispered, "You saved me, again." Always. That's what love means, staying when it's hard. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. I don't care. You're mine anyway." 3 months later, his testimony dismantled the Moretti organization. 6 months after that, we renewed our vows. Real ones this time, chosen ones, with my mother warning him to take care of me, and his promise to spend his life earning the gift of my choice. 2 years later, our daughter Isabella was born, and I watched Ruiz hold her with tears streaming down his face, promising to be better than his father. 5 years after that came Marcus, named after Diego who'd saved us both. 10 years after a drunken marriage neither of us planned, we stood in the penthouse, watching our children play, acknowledging our imperfect but chosen life. "We started with manipulation and lies," I said, leaning into him. "We built something real from broken pieces," he replied, kissing my temple. "That's better than starting perfect and staying shallow." Love born from darkness, transformed by courage, proven through sacrifice. Not the beginning we wanted, but the ending we fought for, messy, imperfect, and completely ours.